Welcome back to Night City after a long layoff from Night City, as today we're looking at the latest release from Saurian, Tales of the Red. The last video was a year ago, but Cyberpunk Red releases haven't been flooding the shelves. This book is a mission anthology, similar to Tales from the Forlorn Hope, though they aren't interconnected like that one. So how do the adventures hold up? Do they finally give the new game the expanded lore it needs? I'm Mr. Welch, and it's time to flick you the deets. I say this is the first Cyberpunk Red supplement book, but that's only partially true, as Interface Red Volume 1 did come out in print first, but that was almost entirely reprints of the free PDFs you can get on the Artel website. Tales of the Red was released in 2022, edited by Linda Evans, Matt Click, and Michael Matheson. Cover art is attributed to Bad Moon Art Studio, and the list of interior artists is substantial. Gone are the days of one artist doing all the interior work. It's in full glorious color and weighs in at 196 pages. No reason to pad this video with background. Let's dive into the adventures. First up is a night at the opera, where the party is trying to solve a string of murders in the University District, where they get to deal with some gangs that are presented in a new light. Or is that dark? NCPD hires the party to solve a pattern of serial murders. The first lead is an art show / orgy held by the Philharmonic Vampires. Now, no game will make the DM describe an orgy, so the party gets broken up by some bad guys. Then they follow new leads until the final gun battle and the big reveal. The adventure puts the vampires in a new light. In 2020, they were almost a comedic gang. In Red, they're presented as a mysterious presence with unknown motives. Next up is Agents of Desire, another investigation mystery. In this case, they're hired by Rogue to rescue a kidnapped victim. Yes, that Rogue. No, not the flying, power-sucking Rogue that Marvel hasn't known what to do with in 20 years, but the Rogue from the intro story that appears in every edition of Cyberpunk. The old lady from the video game for newer players. They get to play upper crust at an exclusive French restaurant where they have to be dressed to the nines and on their best behavior. Then they go on a search and rescue for what turns out to be a rather messed up adventure with no happy ending. But they can at least get paid, and even if they don't get paid by the client, they can strip mine their payment from the aftermath, which is almost as good as getting paid. A bucket full of popcorn-flavored kibble is a lighthearted adventure where the party is trying to get cast as extras in an upcoming blockbuster for some quick and easy money. Then they will use their unique talents for more complex tasks than just standing there. This one will require the party to use all their social skills because it's a death-free adventure, as combat is not wanted on the film set. In the process of running around doing errands for cast and crew, they have to deal with megafans, sleazy medias, and marital drama. It's a change of pace adventure, considering how dark the last one was. Okay, the last two. You can't fight cyberpsychos all the time. Occasionally you have to ensure all the food on the catering table is organic, so the diva doesn't start throwing things. Then we put on our swimsuit for Drummer and the Whale as the party is hired for some salvage work that gets complicated after a milk run. This one is almost entirely underwater and there are few options for combat. Well, there are, but gunfights on submarines are generally bad ideas. In the process of a scavenger hunt for unknown treasures from before the war, the party deals with bioengineered critters, corporate mischief, and double agents. This one is one of the more open-ended adventures. If the party is good enough, they can get in and out without letting any of their rivals know they even exist. Or they can play it safe, in which case the adventure resolves without them. This one is primarily for skill monkeys, as it's a lot of technical checks. The book kicks into a more humorous tone with Haven't Got a Stitch to Wear, which is one big fetch quest to get some clothes from a tailor that really needs them for their client. You know what kind of adventure you're getting into when the cover art features boxers covered in Valentine's hearts flying through the air. It's possibly the only adventure in the dark future where the players get paid in clothes. Then throw in a helpful or hostile contract killer that just wants his favorite suit back and doesn't care who he has to kill to get it. He can be a big help to the party, or he can be their own personal nemesis. That's up to the party. But he's well above their pay grade if the party is at the suggested level. If played correctly, it's a combat-light adventure, and most of them seemingly are. The players can try to shoot their way to the clothes, but the tailor will take out the cost of fixing bullet holes in the suits out of their pay. Reaping the Reaper starts with the first of a series of serial killer hunts, as the party gets to try and locate who's taking over netrunners and turning them into cyber zombies. It's a horrifying mix between 28 Days Later and the Gerard Butler movie Gamer, the one where they use convicts in the future as characters in a twisted first-person shooter. Yeah, don't worry, I don't remember anything about the movie either. While the film wasn't very good, this adventure is probably the best in the anthology. It reintroduces us to the Forlorn Hope, but only briefly, and doesn't go into any real detail. It has some scary scenes in which the villain unleashes all sorts of technological horrors on the party. While the party deals with a nearly unstoppable and limitless horde of brain-burned zombies, the killer is always one step ahead of them. The final battle is tense as the party will be off balance, and time is very much of the essence here. Staying vigilante has you track down a vigilante killer who's already taken out 3 runner crews, and you might be the 4th. The characters have to track down the psycho, all the while finding out the motivations behind the killer, which leads to the discovery of the vendetta. You've got a tag-along side character to serve as the devil's advocate, and when it comes down to the party deciding whether they want to be ethical or get paid. If your players are good at solving mysteries, it won't take long to realize that the entire dispute is between the killer and the fixer. All the corpses so far were just collateral damage, as these two are trying to off each other over a past beef. The adventure pushes you hard to side with the vigilante, which is evident playing. Still, if your players are all about the eddies, they won't hesitate to fill the contract. This might cost them some rep, but the vigilante did send several mercs to the boneyard, so nobody will stay mad at them for long except for the vigilante's allies. Which starts the cycle anew. Bathed in Red is the first half of another serial killer adventure. The party is hired to find who killed a CEO's son while trying to deal with the culprit, a behind-the-scenes puppet master known as the Red Knight. The CEO is named Deckard, and while none of her family are hunting down renegade skin jobs, I did appreciate the Blade Runner Easter egg. Most of the action takes place in a nightclub where you wear VR goggles to see how people actually see themselves. This leads to a ransomware attack as the Red Knight hacks the goggles and people can't take them off. Then you follow all the clues and are supposed to ally with a bunch of street kids that have been blackmailed into serving as the foot soldiers of the Red Knight. By blackmail, I mean he puts a virus in their cybernetics, and if they disobey him, he raises their internal temperature a few hundred degrees. In the end, you end up with a Saw-style scenario and have to choose between saving the street kid or the CEO who wants justice for her son. If you save the street kid, the CEO chugs biotoxin. Save the CEO, and the street kid's cyberware kills him. Or take option 3 and have your pyromaniac solo carpet bomb the warehouse with stun grenades while the Red Knight is busy monologuing, knocking out both victims, rendering the cyberware out of commission long enough for the techie and the Nutrunner to get the Red Knight's virus out of the victims. Being a cyberpunk GM is often equal amounts of horror and pride at your player's unique blend of creativity and extreme violence. Then we get to the last adventure in the book, One Red Knight. Knight with no K. It's a homophone, get it? This one fell flat for me. The party gets hired to find the Red Knight by the dead kid's father this time, who is apparently hooked up with another NPC from a previous adventure, who's his new trophy wife. This has no bearing on the adventure, but it's a major plot point for some reason. The party gets handed a clue, goes to said clue, gets accosted by their designated allies, makes peace, gets handed another clue. That's where the adventure threw me off. The party is just reacting to others doing things to draw out the killer. When they finally get to the killer, then it's the stock betray the boss and reveal the truth or get paid scenario. I know that's a time-honored cyberpunk staple ending, but you can only use it so many times or it gets stale, especially in an anthology. The adventures end, but there are 3 appendixes immediately after. There's a short 4-page section on mook stats and the mechanics for defenses, and this seems like padding. 1 page is full-color art, and it shouldn't take 2 pages to stat 4 generic NPCs. Appendix B is beefier, covering all the locations found in the book and giving more information on news sites in the main book. It's more of a glossary than an actual background to the different locations, with mostly only getting 2 or 3 lines of description. Appendix C covers the biography of all the major characters and quite a few minor characters from the different adventures. Their stats aren't listed here, but you get a redirect back to the section of the book where you can find them. I'm okay with that, because I prefer having the rules for the various NPCs next to the relevant parts of the game rather than having to flip to the back as you do in other games. Now, the question you should have on your mind is, how does this compare to the Tales of the Forlorn Hope? That's the only other anthology released by Artalsorian for Cyberpunk, and it did set the bar rather high. This one doesn't hold up, unfortunately, for a lot of reasons. First, this book really needs a location sourcebook to play off. It tosses out the names of new businesses and locations that the party should already be familiar with. In contrast, in 2020, you already had that established with the Night City sourcebook. Forlorn Hope spent the first part of the book introducing us to the NPCs ahead of time, rather than throwing them at us during the adventure. You will need to have the players know all the various characters ahead of time, like having them get clothes from Shears in an early adventure, or get jobs from the countless disposable fixers they will meet in these. Forlorn Hope had a central hub where all the adventures originated from. Tales of the Red doesn't, and it shows. You already know my opinion on anthologies in general, and this doesn't change it. What this book did succeed at was giving us an idea of what Red needs to be a fully fleshed out game. It requires a lot of world building to reach the levels of 2020. Not just something along the lines of the legendary Night City sourcebook, but splat books for the various roles would be welcome. The world's been nuked. Everything has changed. Where do the various characters fit into the new normal? We need updated versions of the 2020 sourcebooks, detailed books on the corporations, and I wouldn't say no to new Chromebooks, the ones with the cybernetics and guns, not the Samsung laptop. I want to thank Charles Phipps for supplying me with a copy of Tales of the Red back in October for review. Took me a while because I wanted to see the adventures in action rather than a quick read-through. Red has a lot of promise, but it does need more background to reach its true potential. 2020 made its names on its source books, not its adventures. Somebody should take that to heart. Until next time, remember, zero body count doesn't mean just the ones they can find.